Now our first speaker, Taylor Simpkins. Taylor is a senior at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, majoring in biology with a minor in secondary education. A fun fact about Taylor is her love for crafts and critters.
Hi everyone, my name is Taylor Simpkins. I'm a senior here at UAB, we just said. I graduate really soon, thank God. I am very passionate about education, and I was very excited to get up here and be able to talk about something that I have noticed throughout my time in public education in the state of Alabama. What inspired me to get up here is that there was a study done where there were 4 students in total, 2 black students and 2 white students, a part of the study, and the participants were supposed to click to notice if they thought that they saw any bad behavior, or they suspected that a student was about to commit a bad behavior. There was an overwhelming response of people thinking that the black students were committing a bad behavior. And when the study was done, it was revealed that there was no bad behavior at all. This is implicit bias. Implicit bias is defined as the unintentional but unavoidable judgment of others due to preconceived notions. It can be making an unfair assumption about someone based off their name, their accent, or the slang that they use. You might be wondering, what does your subconscious bias have to do with our education system, and why does it matter? So, implicit bias can have the same effects as blatant racism. The school-to-prison pipeline is an American phenomenon that uses the increase in punishment and over-monitoring of disadvantaged students. In this case, disadvantaged students can be economically disadvantaged, racially disadvantaged in our society, or disabled in their abilities. I'll be focusing on the racial aspects of the school-to-prison pipeline. Some examples of implicit bias in the classroom include not calling on certain students because you think that they might not be able to meet the standard. This is commonly seen with black and brown girls, as teachers are not as likely to call on them and to assess their knowledge. This can also be seen and it shows up in their test scores, and it can continue long term. A study was done that had 40,000 teachers do the AIT test, which is a bias test, and it showed that their black students and their white students did not have the same scores. From this study, it was seen that the white students were more successful because the teacher had lower expectations and an increase in punishment for the black students. Unfortunately, this starts as early as pre-K, 2, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. It starts as early as they're still in diapers, right? It was found that black preschoolers were expelled at 2 times the rate of their white peers. Preschoolers expelled. Come on now. A study also found that teachers were in favor of restraining or using corporal punishment more on their black students than their white students. And this follows into primary and secondary education. When we look at just suspension rates, for more than 1 suspension, black students were suspended at double the rate of their white peers. And it's important to note that black students in Alabama only make up 32% of our student population, compared to 51% of white students. We see this even further when we look at our school resource officers and our police in the schools. So white and black students had the same interactions, or the same rates of interactions with the school resource officers, around 45%. Now keep in mind, black students only make up 32% of the state population, and white students make up 51%. When we look at arrest rates, we see that the rate of black students getting arrested at school increases to 46%, while for white students it decreases to 41%. This is not proportional. And you might be wondering, why does this happen? Are certain students worse? Is it true? And there has been no science or no studies to correlate race with bad behavior. Richard O. Welsh, an expert in educational policy, found that white students and black students were disciplined for different things. White students were more likely to be disciplined for rules that are clearly laid out in the classroom, school, and district policies, like foul language and leaving without permission. But Black students were more likely to get in trouble for judgment-based disciplinary actions, like defiance of authority and being perceived as a threat. And unfortunately, this doesn't just stop in the classroom. There have been many young men that have been killed due to being perceived as a threat. This is implicit bias. Why do they get in more trouble, right? Why are teachers punishing Black students more than white students? And it was found that teachers over-monitor their Black students and their students of color. Teachers monitor their Black students 44% of the time, while they monitor white boys 32% of the time and white girls 14% of the time. Now let's remember that stat. 32% of our state is comprised of Black students. This is not proportional, and this is implicit bias. Unfortunately, it carries into our prison system. And that over-monitoring that we see in our education system is eerily similar to the over-policing that we see in our brown and Black communities. When we look at Alabama's prisons, known for having some of the most overcrowded prisons in the country, we see that there are more Black men in prison in our state than white men. But now keep in mind, there are only 25% of Alabama's population is comprised of Black men. So we ask ourselves, why is this? And there are many reasons for someone to end up in the prison system. But we are just focusing on implicit bias. And we're focusing on the over-monitoring and over-policing of our students turned adults. We also need to realize that what we say to our children and how we treat them when it comes to punishments will follow them. If we instill in someone that they are bad, do you expect them to be good? Right? This is Mr. Bobby Bostic. He was part of the school to prison pipeline. He was sentenced at 17 years old, and he acknowledges and takes responsibilities for his actions. He has since been released, but in prison, he said he was able to start writing, and he said that when he was in school, the resources weren't all there. He said that his classmates weren't motivated to continue in their education, and a lot of his peers dropped out. And like Mr. Bobby Bostic, some of them did engage in criminal activity. When we sit and we think, why does this happen? We can think about the kind of schools that we have. Alabama is not a rich state. A lot of our schools are Title I. Almost all Birmingham City schools are Title I, Gardendale, Clay Chalkpool, Blount County, Shelby County. Our schools need this extra money and this extra funding because it doesn't come from those property taxes. And we have to keep this in mind when we're thinking about bad schools and good schools. Shouldn't every school be a good school in our state? This brings us to two social phenomenons of how this does happen. White flight, when a white community leaves an area because a Black or brown community moves in. Applied to education, splintering is what occurs. So when a school wants to leave a school district and create their own school district, it's called splintering. It's done in the name of reducing oversight and making sure that their students have what they need and have the resources that they need. And it sounds fantastic, but like most things that are implicit, there's another side to it. When a school leaves a district, they can decide what neighborhoods are included. And oftentimes, Russell City, Springville City, when they became a splinter district, the kids that didn't make the cut and those neighborhoods that didn't make the cut, they went to those surrounding schools. That makes those surrounding schools overcrowded, and it makes those resources not go as far. And it brings us to the question, who deserves a quality education? Because shouldn't we all? So, what can we do about it, right? These are all very big issues, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. But one of the biggest things that we can do is to look at our own bias. We can see how we feel about other people. When someone comes at you a type of way, how do you respond to them? Do you understand where their frustrations come from, or do you just write them off? Think about your friends. If you have a friend that's going through a hard time, are you going to sit there and just be like, nah, because they can't meet your needs? Or are you going to help them and provide support? We also need to give folks grace. In the realm of education, these are children. They are growing, they are minors. We're supposed to support them and help them grow. We should never expect them to make mistakes, but when they do, we should lift them up. And one of the biggest things that we can do is just to imagine yourself in that position. You don't have to know everything about somebody, but the least you can do is acknowledge what they tell you and how they act. We also need to admit that we're not perfect and that we do have biases. No matter your skin color or your economic status, there is somebody around that you might think is less than you. And ask yourself why you think that. Ask yourself what you would do if you were in their position and how you would go about your life. We also can support our community. So as the Department of Education may be dismantled, we can support our state and make sure that our state makes sure that our students are supported. We can talk to our representatives. Here they are. This is the Board of Education. We can make sure that they are making sure that our kids have a quality education and have the resources that they need. There are some counties in Alabama that don't have certified teachers because they don't have that funding. And we could just hold them accountable like we should hold ourselves accountable. We can also support DEI. The reason it was created was because our states and other states like ours were not making sure that our students had equitable education. This goes for our rural students, our Black students, any student that's not middle class, or disabled students. And we can support these students. And since it's abolished, we can find another thing to do because everyone's still here and we still have all these issues and we haven't found many solutions. I encourage you to take a look at yourself and us all. Thank you for your time.